Back at it with book number 18, which is Unshakeable, written by Tony Robbins, along with a co-author, Peter Mallouk. I think the name is pronounced that way. Most of us know Tony Robbins from the 1980s and 1990s infomercials. I remember being a kid watching cartoons, watching college football, watching pro wrestling, and seeing his infomercials come on after those television programs as a kid. When I picked the book up, Unshakable, again is the name of the book, I did not know the theme or the content within the book. And come to find out, it's actually a book about financial freedom and the playbook to financial freedom. And so Tony, again, partnered up with Peter Mallouk. And again, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But he has been ranked as one of the highest wealth advisors on a consistent basis over the last couple of years. And so Tony talks a bit about his financial gains and success, as well as his financial endeavors. And he allows Peter to come in and also give some concise advice or direction from an educated perspective as someone who's actually in that line of work every day. And so the book is more dense than I thought it would be, because again, when I picked the book up, I didn't realize that it was a financial book, even though it said clear as day, the Financial Freedom Playbook. They get into great detail, he and Peter, of the recommendations they would make around how to leverage wealth advisors, how to distribute your investments, when to pull out of your investments, when to double down. They give some really specific information, and the information is so dense and so specific that I think a book like this is something that you should try to revisit more than one time. As I've mentioned on other book reviews, I take notes in my on my computer in my iNotes folder, and that allows me to be able to revisit easily what I've read without having to pick up the book. But this is one of those books I think you've got to go back through it and read it multiple times. So there's a quote early in the book that says, "The purpose of business is to produce happiness, not to pile up money." And that was a quote given by B.C. Forbes of the infamous, not infamous, but the famous Forbes media outlet. Again, the purpose of business is to produce happiness, not to pile up money. So that's kind of how the book starts. And then it goes into the super nuts, so to speak, of the suggestions that Tony and Peter both make about navigating the financial system for the sake of financial freedom. They give a couple of facts in the book that I think are important to highlight. The first is that on average, corrections to the market have occurred at least once a year since 1900, and the average correction lasts 54 days. And so this idea of a correction is when we hear the phrase, the market corrects itself. And sometimes there are situations where shortly after a major increase in the market, there's a major decrease, or the opposite happens as well, where there's a major decrease and then there's an increase that takes place. And so these sort of scenarios take place at least once a year over the last 100 years. And the idea that Peter and Tony are trying to get us to realize, what they're trying to convey, is that we should not be so scared and so skeptical of the market that we're feeling coerced by the other financial experts on television to jump out of the market at different moments, that we've got to really practice riding the wave. Another fact is that less than 20% of all corrections turn into a bear market. So it's not as if when a correction happens, it's going to be the worst sort of scenario taking place. Less than 20% of those corrections lead us into a situation where we're in a bear market. The third fact is that nobody can predict consistently whether the market will rise or fall. Again, the overarching theme is get in the market, stay in the market. The previous book I reviewed, the most recent book before this one, was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And again, in life, we just have to learn how to let things compound. So that freedom factor, number 3, is nobody can predict consistently whether the market will rise or fall. The fourth one is that the stock market rises over time despite many short-term setbacks. So if you continue to kind of take these steps, it'll go up and down, but essentially it'll push you in the right direction. There are a number of other freedom facts, they call them, in the book, but those were a couple of them that I thought stood out. And one of the things that I saw in the book that really made me kind of raise my eyes, JP Morgan found that 6 of the 10 best days in the market over the last 20 years occurred within 2 weeks of the 10 worst days. So again, going back to the corrections, it seems as if a lot of the great growth is followed by great decline, and great decline is followed by great growth. But as it states in freedom fact number 4, stock market rises over time despite many short-term setbacks. So it is likely that if you are in that financial market, that you will find growth over a long period of time. Again, a very dense book. The book is Unshakeable by Tony Robbins and co-written by Peter Mallouk. And again, it's my 3rd time saying his name. I hope I'm saying it correctly. But the book also does a really great job, I think, of highlighting how the fee structure works when you have a wealth advisor, and how there's so many fees that you are not aware of. I think this may be the most valuable part of the book for me, just talking about how financial advisors and wealth advisors get paid. And what I struggled with when reading the book is accepting the fact that Peter and Tony are highlighting the fact that financial advisors are incentivized based on their fee structures to do and make certain moves. But at the same time, it is hard to have someone in your corner if you're not paying them a premium. So Peter and Tony highlight the ways in which you can cut fees and how you can actually work your accounts on your own without as much assistance from advisors. But I struggle personally with thinking about the fact that if you want somebody really good, you got to pay them. But at the same time, Tony and Peter make a really great argument around the how large of a pie you have with your investments and how large of a slice the wealth advisors and financial advisors take from that. There are too many scenarios for me to read off in this review, but I think that is probably for me the most valuable part of this book, is how well they go into detail to explain the fee structure for the advisors of your 401k or your stocks and all those sorts of things. The thing that I got out of the book, the thing that resonates with me, is toward the end, Tony talks about the real wealth of life, and that's achievement and fulfillment. And so as the book sort of comes to an end, if you read it through its entirety, you'll get a lot of financial information, but Tony becomes who we know him to be as this motivator, and talks about how gaining all this financial wealth doesn't matter if you're not fulfilled. And so he gives some really good insight on fulfillment beyond finances. And I thought it was a good way to end the book, but I also felt like for some people, maybe if that were at the end, it would shape the experience of reading the book as well. I would recommend the book, again, Unshakeable by Tony Robbins and Peter Mallouk, for people that are already in the financial space in terms of having a real interest in it, investing in the markets, but just want to get some more information about how the people at the very top operate. Again, a very dense book. It would take a lot of focus to sit and look, and I think you should take real detailed notes when you do get the book. And hopefully after hearing my review of the book, again, Unshakeable, that you will consider reading it. Thank you as always for checking into my reviews. This is book number 18 for the year. Approaching the end of the year, I'm now reading my 19th book. I probably won't get to book 20, but 19 books in a year I think is a pretty good pace to have. And it comes from me reading 10 pages a day, sometimes 15 or 20, but at the least 10